Welcome back to A Year of Final Fantasy, and today we're kicking off the month of Carbuncle by taking a look at the Final Fantasy Ultimania books. So let's talk about what the Final Fantasy Ultimania books are, and interestingly enough, the Ultimania books are basically a form of this project, but, in book form. Probably even more in depth though, as each Ultimania book covers a specific game, and in doing so it goes much more in depth with each of those games. This shouldn't be confused at all with strategy guides though, as it doesn't really guide you through the game, it just more explains the things about the game, the lore, the history, all of that. There is a lot of art, but like I said, that art is accompanied with all of these little insider tidbits of how the game mechanics work, the history of the development of the games, and things like that. In fact, many more of the recent books in the series are split up and dedicated to specific parts of the games themselves, such as the battle system or the story or whatever. So instead of getting a book about one singular game, you're going to get a Final Fantasy XII book about the story, about the battle, about items or whatever. And there are an insane number of Ultimania books, and the Ultimania series actually extends beyond the Final Fantasy franchise into others like Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, Kingdom Hearts, Secret of Mana, Romancing Saga, others in the Seiken Densetsu series, and a lot more actually. But 45 of the current 75 books right now are dedicated to Final Fantasy in some way, shape, or form. A few of the standouts here are that Final Fantasy IX was published exclusively online, which took a similar approach as they did with the Brady Games Guide, and of course, like that guide, it was not very well received at all, and a proper Final Fantasy IX Ultimania book came out 2 years after that original one had released, which is good for like a preservation point of view of game books and game lore and everything. Similarly, a Final Fantasy XI version faced the same problem, except there exists no traditional book of Final Fantasy XI, although one was expected to come out, but they just never got that project off the ground, which again is a shame from a game preservation point of view. The Ultimania series here is incredibly successful in Japan, collectively selling over 10 million copies. Initially, this type of book was originally called Perfect Works in the Perfect Works series, which covered Xenogears, Saga Frontier 2, and Front Mission 3. So there were only 3 in that particular Perfect Works series, which was published by a Squaresoft subsidiary company called DigiCube between 1998 and 99. However, that was switched over to the current series of books that we now know as Ultimania. These Ultimania books were written by Studio Bent Stuff, if I'm saying that right, and published by the aforementioned DigiCube until 2003, as that company was dissolved as Square merged with Enix to form, obviously, Square Enix, who, as we know today, publishes the books themselves. The most recent Ultimania book is actually Final Fantasy XII The Zodiac Age, as of this recording, but I'm sure it'll be supplanted very soon with the Dissidia NT book coming out for the PlayStation 4. I guess that this information is probably going to date the video a little bit, but whatever. It's interesting information relevant to the time of which I'm recording this. So the last thing I want to leave you here is actually some incredibly good news. The Ultimania books on their own have been Japan exclusive since their inception. However, this is no longer the case, as it was announced recently that the Ultimania series is coming over to the West, with its first installment being called Final Fantasy Ultimania Archive 1, covering the first 6 major games in the series. This archive is being delivered by the good folks over at Dark Horse who have experience with these type of projects, bringing us over the originally Japanese-only Legend of Zelda books known as the Hyrule Historia. They also brought over Art and Artifacts, and soon, next year to be released, is the Zelda Encyclopedia. And they've done amazing, fantastic jobs on all of those. I have them all. I have that Zelda Encyclopedia pre-ordered, and now I gotta pre-order this, right? So the first Ultimania Archive book is gonna be released on June 5th in 2018 for $39.99 US. And assuming those sell well, which I'm sure they will, we're gonna be getting the additional compilation books for the other major games. And from there, I'm not sure what's gonna happen. And it would be good to note too that these are gonna be hardback covers, where the original Ultimania books are actually softback, barring some of the more popular guides that have been compiled into a collector's edition. And I might just have to create an addendum, maybe like an appendix to this Year of Final Fantasy series, as the book is going to come out several months after this whole Final Fantasy project will be done. And, I want to go over it, and I still want to keep up with the games. But anyway, are you planning on getting this Final Fantasy Ultimania book? Do you have any of your own Final Fantasy Ultimania imported books? Let me know how they are, because I actually don't have any of them. And of course, thank you for watching, and if you want to help what I'm kind of attempting to do here on the channel, please share this around, subscribe, all of that stuff. It means so much to a tiny channel like my own. But as always, until next time, Crystal Warriors, keep on gaming.